Hi, my name is Paul Larkin. I'm the Director of Research at the ALS Association. And in the next few minutes, I'll give you an overview of our Barnett Drug Development Program. The program is named for Lawrence and Isabel Barnett, who were both widely respected members of the entertainment industry who became involved with the ALS Association when a friend was diagnosed with ALS many years ago. Over that time, they've contributed significant time, effort, and funding to the association, and about 5 years ago, they helped us launch this particular program. Their son Larry has also continued their tradition of commitment by serving on the advisory board for this project until just recently. So it's thanks to the generosity of the Barnett family that we've been able to establish this vital program. So I've said this is the Barnett Drug Development Program, and I wanted to take a minute to talk about a specific part of the drug development pipeline that we fund with the Barnett program. To do that, I wanted to start by establishing the context of the overall drug development pipeline that runs from basic biology through clinical trials to drug approval. At the drug approval end of that, I think most people are familiar with the idea that there are phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3 clinical trials that try to show the efficacy and safety of a given therapeutic agent. And these are big, expensive clinical trials that are almost always run by industry sponsors, meaning pharmaceutical and biotech companies. And then on the other end of things, I think most people are familiar with the idea that academic science is largely focused on the biology of disease and on understanding what the biological targets are that we should go after with new drug development efforts. What we fund with the Barnett program is actually this piece in the middle of all that, which is called preclinical drug development. And I should say that at the association as a whole, we fund across this drug development pipeline, but we do it with a variety of different programs. And for the Barnett program, we're really focusing specifically on preclinical drug development. And so that can be activities like cellular or animal models of efficacy. It can be studies looking at where a drug goes in the body and whether or not it interacts with the target that we are hoping it interacts with in the right way. It could be safety, toxicology, it could be improving manufacturing processes and getting ready for these large trials, a variety of other activities as well. But all in all, as a whole, it's a very vital step in the drug development pathway. And it's one that we believe is sort of underfunded because on the one hand, academic labs are incentivized to focus more on novel biology rather than these early steps of drug development. And on the other hand, industry labs are often incentivized to focus more on later stage assets that are closer to revenue generation. So we think it's really important for us to make sure that this handoff from academia to industry goes well and that we support as many high quality academic assets as possible moving out of that academic phase and into the hands of the pharma and biotech partners who will ultimately test them in clinical trials and deliver them to patients. So now that you know the goal of the Barnett program, this slide shows a bit of an overview of what we've been doing in the last 5 years with the Barnett program. You can see that in summary, we've funded 32 projects, 12 of them are completed so far, and in total, we've committed more than $10 million in funding. And I'd also like to mention that in this most recent cycle, which you can see at the bottom of the slide where we funded the bottom 6 projects there, we received 40 applications, actually 41, for those 6 spots. And that's the most that we've received in any funding cycle over the 5 years of the project. And I think that's great news because it means that on the one hand, it's great that there are 40 projects out there in preclinical development for ALS. And on the other hand, those people working in preclinical development believe that and are aware of the resources that we have and believe that these resources can help them achieve their goals and advance in the clinical pipeline. So I think the enthusiasm out there in the community around this program is really exciting and promising for the future development of the clinical pipeline in ALS. So the previous timeline shows what we funded over the last 5 years or so, but what we really want to know is what has been the impact of that funding. And one way to look at that is to look at partnerships and follow-on funding. And this is particularly important in preclinical drug development because even though we're investing up to $500,000 per project, and that's a substantial investment for us, we know that that's not going to be enough for the academic and industry groups that we're funding to take their assets all the way into the clinic. And so even after funding, those groups are going to need partnerships and funding such as grants from NIH or from the ALS research program at the Department of Defense, or perhaps a commercial investment from a venture capital group, or a pharma partner who is either providing research services or development services or an acquisition of some kind for an asset that they want to move forward. And we've seen all those different types of funding events in our portfolio and more, but I should mention that it's not always clear that there's a direct line between our funding and the follow-on funding that we see, because these are large, complex projects. But if we see that we've funded an asset and then after our funding is complete, or after our funding has been initiated at least, other follow-on funding shows up as well, it makes sense to say, and I think it's justified to say, that we have contributed to that outcome. So when we do that type of analysis and look across our portfolio, we can see that 21 of the 32 projects that we've funded so far have some kind of partnership or follow-on funding. I think that's a great number because certainly the 32 includes projects that we funded very recently and that are still ongoing. As I mentioned in the previous slide, 6 of them are ones that we just funded in 2021. We just signed another contract last week. And so I do think that over the next few months and years, as these projects mature, we're going to see more and more of them that pick up this partnership and follow-on funding type of event. And I think that's a great piece of validation for us, because it does show that we are investing in assets that are continuing to be advanced after we have put our investment into them. But of course, it's not really the ultimate goal of the program. We're funding preclinical research because we want to get to the clinic. So by that measure too, we're starting to see some early successes. 4 of the programs that we funded have made it into clinical trials. And similar to what I said on the previous slide, I'm confident that this number will increase over time. Right now, only 12 of the 32 programs that we funded have been completed. So to have 4 programs in the clinic is great news. And as more of our programs are completed, and as the partnerships and follow-on funding that I mentioned in the previous slide continue to bear fruit, we're going to see more and more of our programs make it to the clinic and hopefully progress through clinical trials and give us more and more shots at finding new, highly impactful therapies for patients. So that's the Barnett Drug Development Program. It's one I'm very excited about, and we've got some promising early successes, and I'm looking forward to building on that and advancing towards new therapies as quickly as we can. And with that, I want to once again thank the Barnett family and all the other donors to this program for their generosity, and thank you for listening.